Hello, everybody. It is great to be here one more time today. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm the CEO, president, and founder of GSD Get Shit Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in the heart of Silicon Valley. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur with several unicorns under the belt. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion. Yes, 1.35. And also Eva.ai, one of the first generative AI companies that I co-founded in 2016, 3 years before OpenAI. We believe at GSD that intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world and opportunities are not. The name of our company is GSD for a reason. It is Get Shit Done Venture Studios. So great to be here. With that, I've got a credible guest, Adam Boggs. He's got over 13 years worth of experience in co-creating workshops and designing facilitated experience for leading technology giants like Google, SAP, and Cisco. He's got a deep understanding of what it takes to make a memorable meeting and efficient, as we say in psychology and as we say in algorithmic math, optimized. His extensive experience enabling businesses in taking sales and strategies highlights the importance of blending the human touch with adaptability, a principle that is key to his company, Mahana's logo. He is author of The Business Artist, a best-selling book, and where he explores the artistic principles that distinguish top performers in a data-driven world. And yes, we sure do have a lot of data around us. His insights in this embedded in Mahana's design that ensures that their tools not only facilitated structured sessions, but also inspire creativity. Oh, I love that. And strategic thinking. So with that, I'd like to bring Adam on board. Hi, Adam. How are you doing today?
Hey, Gary. Good to see you again.
So tell me a little bit about it. So, you've got a long and storied background. So how did you go from, Purdue? And are you from that area originally? By the way, where's Wheeler High School?
Yeah, Wheeler's in Northwest Indiana. So there's a county in Northwest Indiana that I'm from that's actually on the same time zone as Chicago. So it's Chicago suburb, but if you tell people you're from Chicago and you're actually from Indiana, it's like telling people you're from New York when you live in Hoboken. So yeah, I call the great Hoosier State my hometown.
Oh, and, wow.
Studied computer technology over at Purdue, made my way out to California, and I've been out here for almost half my life now, in Los Angeles and San Francisco.
Now, what made you to get an Associate of Science? Why did you do that first?
I started off when I was in high school. Actually, I got certified by Cisco to build a networking company. And a couple of us started a tiny company, and we put wires and cable and built network infrastructure for schools and high schools. And we were tearing apart computers. This was the late 90s. This was when Bill Gates was kind of building that Microsoft. So everyone said, in those days, if you wanted to make money and be smart, you're going to go into the computer field. All of a sudden, I was in computer programming classes. I was doing an internship at 3M, and I was working in their data center. And this was not the field for me, like hazmat suits, old school data center, writing code, drinking a shit ton of Diet Coke. So I decided I would kind of get outside of the desk and start to apply my personality in different ways. So got into the world of sales, marketing, and consulting from there.
So how old were you when you were doing that with 3M?
I was 19 years old. Yeah, I was an intern, 19 and 20 years old.
Now, how can you be an intern at 19? Were you did you have your degree from Purdue already, or were you working on your degree?
No, they actually paid me to be an intern, and it was an application process, right? So they took a couple of top students that they wanted to kind of groom to be, early hires for the business. It was a fun group. I actually was the social chair as well. So they gave me extra money to make sure people that were interns with me were having a good time playing volleyball, going out to bars, that kind of thing.
And did you have a good time?
I had a great time. Yeah, actually, my identical twin brother was also a computer engineer, and he was at Guided Corporation in Minneapolis as well. So he joined quite a few groups. Back in those days, we looked exactly the same. I mean, you couldn't tell us apart. So that was a natural icebreaker.
Now, did you ever play any games and go someplace, switch places with each other?
Yeah, I mean, we still do work. We go out to spring training every year. We're actually going to be there February 28th for the Cubs. We dress up like Harry Carey, put on these fake microphones, and go interview people. And they have no idea that this microphone is like a styrofoam foam thing with like a paper towel roll. And they're always looking for the cameras in the TV shows. So yeah, we saw.
And why do you do that? What makes you decide to do that? What made you decide?
It's a fun way to kind of break the ice with spring training is all about optimism. The Cubs historically have not been a great franchise. Everyone's tied to this character. They're legendary late Harry Carey franchise kind of broadcaster. So it's just fun.
And so have you met anybody that's gotten mad at you for coming up with them with the styrofoam?
They actually come up to us. People actually surprisingly, you're in the nacho line trying to get some chips, and somebody's like, "Oh, it's my first, game for my kid, this 8-year-old. Can we take pictures with you two that look like Harry Carey?" So we kind of become a little bit of a mascot.
Really?
We're hoping we can get into the broadcast booth this year.
Now, so when you do that, what's the benefit of doing it? Why do you guys like doing it? Is it just from being a kid you wanted to,
Yeah.
to-
I think it's just Eric and I being able to be twins again and kind of have that dynamic. We don't get, he lives in Tennessee now. We don't get to spend that much time with each other, but he's a pretty loud personality. Most would say he's actually more outgoing than I am, which is hard to believe. But when the two of us get together, it's like a tornado.
Now, do you miss him?
Of course. Yeah. The most time we spent, we were in Yosemite in September this year, 7 days backpacking from the east to the west side, sleeping in the same tent. It's bizarre because the first thing you most likely do in the morning is you go wash your face. You see yourself in the mirror. You have no mirror out there. So when you wake up and you see somebody who looks exactly like you, smush face, it sort of looks like you're looking at yourself in the mirror. My brother's not much.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, did you see when you were out there? There's a lot of stories about all kinds of things like Yetis out there. Did you see anything unusual? I mean, I was watching this thing called Missing 411, and they talked about. Did you ever see that show?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where that guy comes from. I know he's from San Jose Police Department, but
sure.
I don't know if it's real or not. But he surely made it seem like you don't want to be walking on some of those places.
Yeah, I think there's some mythology from the John Muir days and the diaries that passed down. The strangest thing I would see is myself and my brother's father-in-law, who's I think he's 7 years old, and they would just strip down nude at the end of the day and jump into this big alpine lake, freezing cold, and pop out and then hang their undies on like a big tag line. So that was now, maybe the most.
Did you see any grizzly bears or brown bears up there?
Yeah, we saw a couple. We kind of see them in the distance. Didn't see anything up close.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you went down through, your twin. You went down through. How was that experience at 3M? How was that for you? Did you like it?
It was a huge company. It was those days they called it e-business. So everything was kind of in the IT space. I would say it was my first dose of what it looks like to work in a big company. It took me like 30 minutes to get from my car to my desk. I mean, all the buildings, and 3M is a huge campus that's there. Great leaders, obviously good mentorship. But at that point in my life, just sit behind a desk writing code wasn't the best path for me. So I think it was at least a good experience to know what I don't want to do.
So you did that for 4 months. You were an IT operations intern.
Yeah.
And then how in the world did you get to the women's volleyball group at Purdue? Did you have a girlfriend that was a volleyball player?
Yeah, Purdue. It's a good story. I went to a Wheeler High School that has about 110 kids per class. It's a small school. And one of the things most people don't realize how expensive it actually is to create a football program. I mean, the weights, the gear, the field, et cetera. So our school didn't have the resources to do that. So we had a men's volleyball league on Friday night. So our Friday night lights, when the whole town would come out, would be volleyball, right? And so I was the captain of the volleyball team. I played a shit ton of volleyball, both indoor and outdoor. And when I got to Purdue, they didn't have a college team. They had a club team. And I kind of got pulled aside by one of the female coach at the time, this guy named Jeff Halsmeyer, who said, we're looking for managers that want to help us out. And so we just went over there and played with them, and then kind of things moved up from there. That was a cool experience. I will also say Purdue is one of the few schools that has an aviation program. So if you want to be like a Delta pilot, you might go to Purdue to learn that, which also means they have an airport on campus, which means we had like a private jet that would fly us around, even though like the 2-hour drive, we would take these 18 girls from the volleyball team on the jet, and I would get to do the in-flight announcements.
Well, that must have been. Now, were you single at the time?
I was, yeah.
I bet that wasn't a bad experience, Ed.
It certainly wasn't. These girls were quite tall, taller than me. But yeah, pretty intimidating in those days.
I remember one time I was over in Russia, and they had an Olympic volleyball team, and these girls were gigantic.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, and I'll always remember when this one girl came up to me, and she was really nice, and I felt like a midget. I honestly didn't feel I don't know how tall she was, 6'6", 6'8", maybe.
Yeah.
Huge, huge.
Yeah.
It's
These
amazing.
are D1 athletes. They get recruited from all over the country to play hard volleyball,
And how
But like
tall are
my
they?
friends, I was kind of the big brother or little brother, depending on how you look at it. Somebody to talk to about their, relationship issues they were going through or whatever it might be.
Wow, that's cool. All right, so you did that. You went to Marshall. What made you
Yeah.
decide to go to Marshall?
Yeah. I'll be honest. LinkedIn was kind of a new thing. I was in an inside kind of outside sales role. And so I would go out on LinkedIn before I would call somebody and I would find out that the chief of whatever, right? Chief revenue officer, chief sales officer, they all went to like the same 5 MBA programs. And so I convinced myself that if I can't get into one of those 5 or at least the top 10, then it's kind of maybe not worth it, right? So I applied to all 10 and I got waitlisted at Northwestern. I actually flew out there and made like one of those Legally Blonde videos, like really trying to push it up, and got denied, right? And so the next year I applied to the same 10 schools and got denied from all of them. And I applied to USC, which was I think 28th at the time. So that was the choice behind Marshall, if I'm being honest. But it's a great school. I had a great time there, learned a lot of things, and met a lot of great people.
Well, I bet. I mean, the weather's nice too compared to where you're from,
I still
right?
have a small chip on my shoulder for folks that can get into those schools, or at least how important we place that in a society that, at the end of the day, once you get into the workforce, I was next to Stanford and Harvard guys, and I was doing quite well next to them.
Yeah, it's interesting because we've had Harvard, Yale, Princeton today. Actually,
Yeah,
Harvard MBA in the cohort. We have a lot of them come in, but when it's all said and done, we're all the same, right? Sometimes people get lucky breaks. Sometimes they know how to score a little bit better on the test.
sure.
That's
Yeah.
life. So then you went to. How did you go? You got into business development. You had this computer science background. How did you do that?
I was actually in Las Vegas and I was sitting across the table from this gentleman who was on his 50th birthday party. And he was looking for a salesperson. We just ended up connecting well. And he was working at a company called Icon International, which is a corporate barter business, which is fascinating, by the way. So imagine you're driving down the road and you see a Corona billboard and Corona, sells you beer. But wouldn't it be great if instead of using that cash that they get from your beer money to buy that billboard, what if there could be swaps of assets, right? What if you could sell magazine pages for hotel inventory? What if you could use depreciating Volvo cars for Russian vodka to sell to a Harvest casino, right? All these kind of swapping of asset deals. So that was great. That was actually my first sales mentor. I wrote about him in my book. His name was Peter Benassi. And he really taught me like the aspect of selling, the personal conversation, the relationship. Sometimes he would mute my phone, right? When I was on a call with somebody, he'd just start yelling at me. So that's like the gong rep that's giving you the AI prompts to stop doing this or do that. I was getting that real time. But so from there, I kind of got into the consulting space, which I'd be happy to talk about.
Yeah, no, you did that. So you went to BTS, and I never heard of BTS. Is that not British Telecom? Is it?
Now, BTS, it's a Swedish company, and it's based in Stockholm. It's a publicly traded company. There's about 2,000 employees worldwide. It actually stands for, it's Scandinavian creativity. It stands for Business Training Simulations, right? So those are the acronyms. And I was there for 13 years. The company sort of bills itself as the people side of strategy execution. And they were the pioneers of building business simulations. So allowing, Mark Benioff and his chief of staff and his whole team going through a 3-year simulation of their future strategy so that people can be kind of aligned to what it is, maybe bought into why we're doing certain things, and then have some new skills along the way.
So you were there for 13 years, right, in sales, and then you went back again, right?
I was there for 13 years, the whole time.
Oh, I see. Okay, because I saw. So the VP of Sales and Marketing Practice, was that with BTS too, or not?
It was, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it was interesting. When I was at Marshall, for those who are going into the consulting world, when you say you're a consultant, everybody always asks which one, right? And they're expecting a Deloitte or a Bain or some big name. So BTS was more of a niche for sure. But at the presentation, I had a lot of friends who came up to me. I actually wasn't at their first corporate presentation and said, Adam, you have to check this group out. They want people who can facilitate, who can stand in front of an audience, who can guide people through an effective meeting platform. You love musical theater. You're great in front of people. You love communicating.
Wait a minute. Why do you like musical theater?
Why do I love, I love the live aspect of musical theater. When you go watch the Grammys, you just have not only the winners, but you have live performances by musicians. And then you go watch the Oscars. Not that these aren't brilliant actors, but most of the movies that we see, it's 16 takes edited to something that we're getting manifested to, right? Live musical theater, it's all completely live, which is very similar to watching stand-up comedy or improv, or even me just doing this right now with you, Gary.
And so you like that? Did you participate at all? Did you do musical theater?
Yeah. In high school, a couple things in college. I was the Cowardly Lion in The Wizard of Oz. If I, the king of the forest, right?
Oh man, you're good at that. Keep going.
we can make it a whole singing show if you like.
Wow,
yeah,
that's
I
amazing.
did a lot of musicals growing up.
Now, did you want to go and be on an actor? Is that why you moved to Southern California?
My wife jokes about this with me. I tell people no, but part of it was, I moved out. I graduated college in 3 years. And so I felt like I had the last year to kind of experiment, move out to LA, mostly to play beach volleyball and just kind of see what an acting career looks like, And I got an internship and then a job at a product placement company. It's where you put Corona bottles in Ben & Jerry's and TV shows and movies. And in those days, those weren't paid placements. It was Gary's the prop master on the show, and I'm going to deliver 30 cases to his daughter's bar mitzvah, and he's going to put this Corona bottle in Charlie Sheen's hand. And so it was a lot of kind of fun wheeling and dealing. But I would be on the backstage with some actors that this was their first time they were ever going to get their big break, and they're like 38, and they've been doing this for 15 years. And I was just like, the risk is too high. Even if I think I have it, there's so much luck in that space. I'd be better off going into the business world and maybe entrepreneurship someday.
Now, did you meet any famous actors while you were there?
Tons, yeah.
Who was nice?
I'll tell you a funny story. I got invited with this girl I was seeing to a Christmas party for the movie I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry, and it was Adam Sandler's production company.
Oh, I love that, by the way. That was really funny.
Yeah, balls and wieners all the way. I mean, it's a pretty funny movie. And so there was A-list actors all over this. This was before cameras were really on your phone, and they had you turn in all your devices. So it was stocked. They had an ice arena that was in there, and half of it was for broom balls, like hockey with broomsticks, right? And in walks, as I'm ready to leave, and I'm wearing shorts, and I'm not dressed properly for ice skating, but in walks Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes, right? And I couldn't help myself. I got to go ask Tom if he wants to play some ice hockey. He looks over there and he said, yeah, but can my kids come? I think he has some kids or adopted kids, whatever that story is. And so he and I are over there playing with a bunch of kids, and he takes a backswing and just cracks my knee, right below the knee on the shin, blood everywhere. I mean, it was like kind of a mess. His girl, Katie, goes over to the bathroom and gets me all the paper towels, and she's like kind of scraping it off. I had to pull out. I handed my hockey stick to Matthew Perry, by the way, who grew up, I think, in Canada, was a phenomenal skater. And so I'm just sitting there kind of getting covered up. But as the scar tissue healed over, I tell people that's my cruise bruise, right? That's
amazing. Now, did you keep in touch with him?
No, that was kind of a one and done thing.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. Pretty competitive guy, by the way. I don't think he cared too much for the injury. He just kept playing.
Really? Wow. Yeah, he's driven. So tell me about Mahana. Now, what was the idea behind that? How did you come up with that, this visual collaboration platform?
Yeah.
And where is it today, and what do you plan on doing with it?
Yeah. I'll first just kind of tell you the genesis behind it, from consulting to that. You mentioned I wrote this book. It's called The Business Artist.
Oh, where do they get the book? Where is it, on Amazon?
It's on Amazon. Yeah, you check it out.
So check this book out, The Business Artist, right? A human approach to sales, storytelling, and creativity in a data-driven world.
Yeah. In the world of consulting, especially with the world of data, if you start to think about art, being an artist is a mindset, but appreciating art is understanding the specific choices that the artist was making. You and I were talking the other day. I was saying, if you give Christopher Nolan, Wes Anderson, and Steven Spielberg all the same movie script, just words on a page, you're going to get 3 totally different movies, right? It's awesome. Every one of those people has a style that's them. They have an intent behind that. They have choices that they make. And we all have our own style, right? And so I sort of felt in the consulting space like I was maybe more of a problem, because you're trying to figure out 100 people. What are the 2 that are performing well? What are they doing today? And try to get everybody to do that, right? And you're trying to create avatars or like cover bands of people and human performance. And so I started to look at the world of meetings, right? And the meetings that I would run, the workshops, and I'd run thousands, I don't know, a countless number of meetings over 15 years. And there was always some creativity, some movement that was in these meetings that was designed from an artistic perspective, right? And being able to just plug and play meetings was really difficult because there's so much art that goes into it. So then we thought, what if we could sort of take the waste of meetings, this $37 billion of unproductive time or $2 trillion of failed initiatives? What if we could solve that problem? What if we could take our consulting brains and our expertise and put it into a bit of software to make meetings smart so that as you start to think about your goals and outcomes, it could recommend the right methodology or the design. It can guide you through, right, with some automation to pull you through the right meeting process. And AI today is way more advanced than it was even when we started this business. So we're pretty excited about what's possible there.
Well, that's interesting. And so tell us where you are. Where are you in terms of the company? Do you have customers?
Yeah.
What are the goals?
Yeah. So this initial hypothesis to build kind of a smart meeting platform. We do have customers, right? So the platform's out there and available. It's still getting better every day. We've got 8 enterprise customers on the platform. And so, figured that each one of those customers have anywhere between 5 to 50 seats. Those individuals have been some power users, right? Some helping us on the roadmap, some giving us new ideas. But I think we're really going to start to break through and we can make the whole process smarter and easier, even for existing customers.
No, that's great. So if you look at it, you've been through a lot. So how do you apply your principles of the business artist to what you do at Mahana?
Yeah. It's funny. I was thinking about this, Gary. When you order a bottle of wine at a restaurant, and then no matter what the price, the guy opens it up for you and gives you a small taste. And most of us, we're not sommeliers. Even if we were, we're still going to be polite, right? That's sort of where AI kind of is, right? If you ask AI to build you a meeting based upon these goals, it's just going to spit out this thing. And if you're not smart enough to think, well, why did it do that? What were the reasons behind that? Then you're just going to say, okay, great. You're going to have a crappy meeting, right? Or most likely one. And so if you think about an artist, they're approaching the world through this creative lens of making all these different kinds of choices all the way. So we want to use AI not only to design the meeting for you, but also to make you smarter in the process of why that design is taking shape and give you a chance to, to optimize it or to adapt it in the way that you would like, so that your own style as an artist is coming through in that meeting.
No, that's great. So we're coming up to the top of the hour.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, final thoughts and how do people get a hold of you if they're interested in using the tool?
Yeah. So Mahana.io, MEAHANA.io is the best place.
How did you come up with that name, Adam?
Great question. So when I would run meetings and workshops for clients, I would always get the applause at the end. Oh, thanks to Adam and this team for building this great meeting. And one of my clients said, the reason we bring in consultants is because they're so good at running meetings. They know how to pull people through. But the reality is they don't know our business nearly as well as some of us do. So the idea of Mahana is 2 words in Hawaiian. Mea means I, and Hana means create. And so if you're using the software, it's I create, me, versus you create. It's this idea of teaching a man to fish versus, keep fishing for them. I read about this in the book a little bit, but I think that the opposite of the word creation isn't destruction. The opposite of the word creation is consumption. And what I mean by that is if you're not creating new things, you're consuming other people's creativity. And if you think about it, creative people tend to approach the world from a critique lens. They say, Gary, I like this. Here's why I like it. Or I don't like this. And here's why I don't like it. But a consumption mindset, which most of us are, is we just kind of judge things. We say, this is shit. I don't like this at all, right? And somebody's like, well, what would you do differently? I don't know. It's wrong. And so Mahana is this idea that we can create more creators in the meeting space by giving them the tools and the methodologies and also the permission to be creative in their own way.
No, that's great. So we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule.
This is fun, Gary.
And for all of you out there, thanks for joining one more time. GSD Presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm your host. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. And we'll be back to you again soon with another exciting edition. Thank you.